Months after the Nashville District Attorney's Office vacated its very first murder conviction ever, the same office is now looking at another questionable conviction.
The murder by arson conviction of Nashville's Claude Garrett. Well, the Conviction Review Unit is investigating the case along with the Innocence Project, and so is our Fox 17 News' Dennis Ferrier in tonight's Ferrier Files.
When you convict a man of murder based on arson, when the whole murder case hinges on arson, it is very disturbing to see so many fire experts say there was no arson, that Nashville bungled the case.
On a mild February night in 1992, Claude Garrett and his girlfriend Lauri Lance came back from a bar at 2:30 a.m. Garrett says they crashed on the couch, both were smokers, and then moved to the bedroom. A couple hours later, the house was on fire. Garrett escaped out the front door. Lance died of smoke inhalation in the laundry room. The ATF investigator determined the fire was arson, that someone poured kerosene in the living room. The district attorney pointed to the laundry room door, saying it was locked, that Lauri Lance was locked in the laundry room, and that Claude Garrett did it on purpose, killing his girlfriend. A Nashville jury found Garrett guilty of first-degree murder, but the district attorney withheld a key fact.
The lock was not latched, that the latch was open. In fact, one report exists in the case file by a fire officer who said that door wasn't locked.
That changed the basic argument for the murder by arson theory. That's where private investigator Stuart Bain enters the case and starts investigating the original investigation. Bain first determined that Lauri Lance and Claude Garrett were in bed together when fire threatened. How would he know that? By their injuries.
The two human bodies were burned on the very same appendages, the very same body parts, to the very same intensity.
That just wouldn't happen if one person started a fire to kill another person. They would be in different places when it happened. Nevertheless, Garrett was found guilty a second time in a retrial 11 years later. His own lawyer says he blew the case by not even calling a doctor to explain the identical injuries. So Garrett remains in prison for first-degree murder. But now the basic arson charge is questioned.
How many mistakes were there in the original investigation?
I think they're still being found. There are so many flagrant misapplications of the scientific method.
That pour pattern on the living room floor? Not a pour pattern, says Bain. Firefighters cleared the house, cleaned the house. No one reconstructed the fire scene, something not understood in 1992, but now would be dismissed as junk science. Even the idea Garrett used kerosene to start the fire no longer holds merit.
50-degree weather, no heating in the house, ambient temps outside in the Nashville area that morning at 5 a.m., February 24, 1992, it's 50 degrees. Kerosene is ignitable at 100.
Bain says you can drop a lit cigarette into a kerosene vat and the kerosene will extinguish the cigarette. The arson claim is so shaky, fire investigators all over the world took up the case. World-renowned expert John Lentini, who wrote the book on fire investigation, investigated the case at his own expense and ripped the arson claim to shreds. And then the world's top fire investigation body in the world, the Tetrahedron, formed a 5-investigator panel and spent a year on the case. They were direct, quote, "There is no basis for the finding that the fire was arson." The Innocence Project, which has freed 21 death row inmates, has taken the case. And now, maybe most importantly, Davidson County's own Conviction Review Unit is deep into its own internal investigation. And remember, it only looks at cases with huge doubt about the conviction. Meanwhile, Claude Garrett waits. An angry man when convicted at 35, he is now a prison leader at 64, who lives by the advice he got early in his fight to prove his innocence.
The state has you clothed in a tailor-made suit of guilt, and you have to start pulling on the threads. And if you keep pulling on the threads and never quit, eventually that suit will fall off of you. And that's what I've been doing. I've tried to stay focused on the fight itself and try not to think so much about the loss.
The Davidson County Conviction Review Unit cannot comment on this case, but that doesn't matter because they only take cases that are shaky, and they've taken this case and worked on it for months, and that speaks for itself. It is Claude Garrett's biggest hope after almost 30 years in jail. I'm Dennis Ferrier, Fox 17 News, your Code Red station.